Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all those who are joining us on behalf of WiTalks. I'd like to welcome all of you for this wonderful session that we are going to have with one of the esteemed celebrities. Well, I'm the host, Dinkar Devgan, a seasoned HR professional and also a happiness coach, as some of you might know me. And today I am taking the privilege of getting to have a little bit of a chat and get some deeper insights from our guest today. To introduce our guest is going to be a difficult task for me, and just a few moments before I was feeling a little nervous, I would say, because the guest for today does claim that she's someone who has been around for too long. If I have to simply move beyond this statement, she is someone who I see has impacted and contributed in such a diverse manner that it is something quite difficult to replicate by many. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege to introduce Paroma Roy Chowdhury to you. Paroma is a communication and public affairs professional with more than 2 decades of experience across global organizations. She has held leadership positions in companies like GE, HP, Airtel, Google, and SoftBank. And currently, she leads the communications and public affairs at a group level for India's largest sports tech unicorn, that's Dream Sports, Dream 11. Her last job was at SoftBank, and she was the Senior Director Asia Communications. And prior to that, she was the Country Head Corporate Communications and Public Affairs for Google. Paroma is also a visiting faculty member in the School of Management and Entrepreneurship at Shiv Nadar University. She's passionately interested in Indian culture, especially in literature, films, and art, and has partnered with platforms like Jaipur Lit Fest and Kolkata Literary Meet for many, many years, helping and curate the events. Paroma is also a champion of diversity and free expression and a keen observer of politics. She also loves a good game of cricket. And one secret, she is also very fond of food. She holds a first class graduate and undergrad degree from Presidency University in Kolkata and has completed a press fellowship at the University of Cambridge, UK. Please, Paroma, pleased to have you here. And thank you so much. I know today is a pretty tight schedule for you, given that we are getting meeting at a time with the launch of IPL. So thank you so much for taking out time and championing this cause for us.
Thank you, Dinkar. That's quite an introduction. I do not think I'm a celebrity at all. I'm just a professional, and hopefully reasonably good one. That's all. That's all. And I'm a good friend. Hopefully I'm a good colleague, and everything that comes with it. But thank you
Mhm.
very much. That's very flattering, and really love the platform. And I mean, no matter, yes, it is a crazy week because the IPL is starting tomorrow, but very glad to be here. And I know quite a few people who are associated with the platform, like Anuranjita and Anamika and many others. And so, very happy to be here.
Yes, and I am also equally excited to be on the side where I get to put some questions to you today. And heading straight into the first one, uh, there has been a very interesting story about your first job and how you went about getting that first job. Would you want to share that with our users here today?
But only when you're that young, you're that intrepid. So I was about 21, I think, or so just finished college, was doing my postgraduate degree and writing alongside. And then somebody told me, and by that time, I used to write extensively when I was studying and many things, pieces at random. And somebody told me, and by that time, I was very interested in being a journalist. And then I used to write for the Telegraph, which is still the biggest paper in Calcutta, where I grew up. And I said that, look, I would like to apply once I finish my master's degree. And
Mhm.
the person said that, look, do a stint on the desk. And Business Standard has the best desk in India. And Business Standard then was the largest business newspaper, not ET. ET was a far second. So I actually walked up to the editor's room. It was just a floor above. And I said, look, Bobby sent me the person, and this is my CV, and I would like to work here. But I don't think anybody did it to him before that.
That's
He
quite
looked,
bold and brave.
yeah, I mean, only you can do these things at 2021. You don't have a care in the world. So I walked, and he have a look at my CV, and he said, okay, do you know how to read a balance sheet? I said, no. He said, do you have any interest in business at all? I said, not particularly. Never read business pages. So he said, okay, go and do this assignment for me, some interview. So I did that, and then came back and gave it to him. And I said, how's it? I had a bit of a reputation as a good writer and all that. In fact, my friends used to pay me to write their letters to the boyfriend, another secret.
Wow.
So, and so he said, it's awful. You don't know the first thing about journalistic writing. And then said, when can you join? So that is my story of my first job. And
Wow.
I stayed there for the first 4 years, learned a great deal, reporting, editing, reporting, being writing features. And I always had a great relationship with my editor, who was a bit indulgent also, I think. But he really gave it to us when we didn't perform. But I have very fond memories of him and that team.
Oh, fantastic. That's so refreshing to hear. So a lot of times we are caught in our own web. How should we approach and what should we do? I guess my biggest takeaway is bias for action, that you've known yourself to be as a professional as well. You started it quite young. You were always focused on the action part of it, walking into the office and walking out with a job. So that's quite
Yeah.
inspiring.
Well, if you're young, you don't think that much. It's sometimes beneficial, sometimes not. But yes, I mean, and I have rest of my life also. I've always believed you should do new things. You should get out of your comfort zone. You should
Mhm.
just try. There's no harm in trying, right? Maximum, what will happen? You will fail, and you will do something else. But there's no harm in trying. I mean, and that's been my watchword throughout my life and my career.
Fantastic. And we have comments from the users also pouring in. So, hi Priya, hi Tinas. Thank you so much for joining in. And keep your comments coming in. I'll start picking up questions, thoughts, comments as they come in and as they are relevant to our conversation today. So, today we are definitely trying to look at the idea of, can I have it all? This is the question most of us people are having, that conundrum, and then to build or not to build around people or people connects in personal as well as professional life. So Paroma, my first question is linked to the diversity of exposure that you've had, from journalism to financial services to telecom to technology, and then moving over to investing, and now in I would say fantasy sports. You worked in such diverse sectors and organizations. I'm curious to understand, how did you go about connecting with people, creating your community every time you joined a new organization, and what really helped you settle in and create your own presence?
I'm glad you asked me that. My life actually has been quite serendipitous. You wouldn't believe how some of these things happened. So, I was a journalist for about 8 years across three
Hmm.
large publications: Business Standard, Economic Times, and Business Today. And I had put in about 8 years. I enjoyed Business Today a little less because I and which is the point. I got a fellowship, journalism fellowship, paradoxically, and went to Cambridge, and it was a fellowship, so we had to write a paper, and I wrote a paper on diversity, actually, the glass ceiling in UK and India, and that gave
Hmm.
me a lot of exposure into corporates, and I also interned with FT, Financial Times, and I really saw how journalism was done, and I admitted that we were doing an exceptionally poor job of it. So I came back and I was thinking that I wouldn't really like to do this anymore. And this is long back. This is 2001 when I came back from Cambridge. And I was
Mhm.
wondering what to do. And I got a call, would you believe it? I got a call from McKinsey.
Wow.
Everybody knew about Indian School of Business at that time. I had also written about it. And so I remember I was in CP in my office, and journalists are usually very badly dressed. It's reverse snobbery. So I actually bought something, I think, and wore and went to McKinsey. and they had a chat with me, and they said, "Look, we are setting up the school, and we are setting it up. And would you like to come and work for us?" So I was very, very surprised at where it came from. And
Mhm.
it so happened that Sumantra Ghoshal, who was a very noted management thinker at that time and a professor at London Business School, which was associated with ISB, uh, I had interviewed him in ET, and he somehow remembered me. And he said that, I had met this girl, I quite liked her, just find her and ask her what she would like to do. And they said, you can do admissions, you can do uh, student affairs, you can do career services. I used to write on HR and management. So I had a ready network, and I went to Hyderabad, leaving my son and husband in Delhi. I did the same for Cambridge, and my husband is a total champion. We married very, very early. I was 23 and he was 25. And
Mhm.
right out of college, pretty much. I mean, as soon as he graduated from B school. And we met in college also. And one of the smarter things I did was to marry him. And he's been completely supportive. He said, just go. I mean, for Cambridge also, my son was even littler. He was 8. And my mother chipped in, my mother in law chipped in a little bit, but mostly it was my husband. And I was in Cambridge for an extended period. And then I come back and I get a job in Hyderabad and I go. So, and one of the best stints of my life, institution building is a very heady thing.
It
And
is.
and an institution on that scale. And we were all commuters. We would all go back to Delhi over the weekend and then come back on Monday morning. I knew that 5 o'clock Monday morning flight to Hyderabad like by heart,
Mhm.
knew all the people who would be on it. So it was hard, but it was very, very enjoyable. And I did that for about a year. Very enjoyable. Set up ISB. It's now India's, some people say, best B school. So, but it was becoming very, very hard on the personal side, because my husband also used to travel a lot. Quite often we have exchanged keys at the airport, you wouldn't believe it, and we had a spreadsheet plotting our travel. So
Oh.
it's always not easy. It seems easy, but it isn't. And then about a year later, again another serendipitous thing, I hosted Tiger Tyagarajan, who's now the Genpact CEO. He had come over to ISB, and we had a fantastic session with him, and till 2 in the night with students. And then mysteriously I get a call from GE and just saying, come and meet us. I'm like, do what? He said, no, just come and meet. And apparently that's how GE hires. Tiger
Uh-huh.
apparently went back and said we should hire this girl. And then we'll figure out what she does. So actually, I had two conversations with the CEO, with the HR head, and they said, "Come and do leadership communication, strategic communication work on M&A, employee comps, and stuff." And that's how I decided to come to GE. None of my jobs, except Google, perhaps, I've been headhunted. It's all been different people talking about me, even in the current job. And the other, so one is serendipitous. Second is I take risks. When I decided to forsake a career in journalism for 8.5 years, I was reasonably good. I wouldn't say I was a top journalist, but definitely I was reasonably good. So I left that behind and said that let me try this. If I don't succeed, I can always come back. From an academic institution, I went to a very hard driving corporate. GE is one of the toughest places to work for. It's got a very tough performance oriented culture, and we had a CEO who was a bit of a tyrant and who I worked with directly. And headhunters, even 3, 4 years later, used to call me and said, "You worked with him for 4 years? How?" No names, here, but in a lot of
No, we are
people who
not.
I'm talking about. So then I left and then GE became Genpact, and it had become completely BPO, and I didn't want to work there. I mean, just that I preferred to work in a different industry. So I go to Hewlett Packard, which was actually like a BPO only, but only it was an in-house thing. And I used to handle Marcom and global Marcom and employee comms there. And that was a global job sitting out of India. That's how I took it. Again, I leave my family and go to Bangalore for about a year. But HP and
Mhm.
I mean, I didn't take to it because it's a great company. I still have very good friends from it, but HP is very large and very complex, and the bias for action was a little low at that time, so I got very bored. Then I get another call from Airtel, and again, I don't ask me how, but then somebody called me and said, "Come and meet us. Apparently, you are looking to come back to Delhi," which I indeed was.
Mhm.
So I get into telecom, heydays of telecom, extremely complex job, very fast paced, and all I handle comms for all divisions: mobility, broadband, enterprise, then DTH. So huge job. Uh,
Huge.
37, 38 people reported it to me. After that job, I decided I'm never going to do another job where 40 people reported it to me. I don't like it. It was, but I learned scale, I learned complexity, I learned crisis management. Telecom is a very crisis prone industry. So that kind of learning, honestly, I don't think it would have been possible in a multinational. So I look back on my Airtel days as very steep learning curve, was not pleasant all the time, was not easy, but I wouldn't exchange it for anything. And again, I have very good friends from it, from that. And my boss then is now the CEO, Gopal, who's a great guy again. So then I get headhunted for Google, and Google apparently um, looked for 3 years or something like that. Didn't quite believe it. Easily best stint of my life. Now Google was internet and tech. Again, understood zilch about it, and I went from a job where 40 people reported it to me to a job where I had 2 people and a grassroots setting up the function. Best stint of my life again. I mean, Google is everything that people call it out to be.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, it's like a university. Once you get in, it reminded me of Cambridge. It had so much cerebral horsepower all around you. You had to hold your own. You have to be the best with the best. You have to meet people step for step. And then it's one of the most, Google is very driven, by the way. I
Yeah.
mean, everyone seems to think that it's very this laid back, happy place. Not at all. But it's it's stellar in terms of employee practices, in terms of how they reward people, everything. How they grow people. Now you can ask me why I left. And the two best managers I have worked in my entire life, I've had in Google. So, and why I left? Because I was getting very bored of the India job. And it wasn't possible for me to go to the US at that time. My son was studying in UK, my husband was in a career. And Nikesh Arora, who was the chief business officer of Google, I
Hmm.
used to work directly with him because he had a global reputation program and I signed up for it. And people did try to warn me that he was a very difficult customer and to think twice. But I have always, Nikesh is a very tough boss to have, but he's amazing. The kind of things I have learned from him is I wouldn't have learned from anyone. And the other person there who was just fantastic is Rajan Anandan, who was my local boss. Not
Yeah.
boss, I've never reported to Rajan, but I consider him one of the best people I've worked for. And he continues to be a friend and a mentor in my sounding board.
Oh, awesome.
So between the two of them, I mean, I think Google was it's still the best stint of my life. But since I wasn't able to go abroad, and Nikesh was moving over to SoftBank, and he told me that come and do this for me. And about a year later, shift to the US once your son goes finishes college and all that. But a year later, and again, pardon my language, I knew jack shit about investing, nothing. And I mean, to do a global job without alien to that world, it was again very steep learning curve, multiple cultures, Japan, London, San Francisco, India, energy business. It's a very large job.
Hmm.
So sometimes very hard, very complex, amalgamation of cultures, different kinds of leadership style, etc. Lot of learning. And Nikesh had to leave after a year. And so everybody expected that I would leave along with him, but I'm a professional, I mean, I don't work like that. So I've had a pretty long stint at SoftBank, about 6 years. It's the longest since Google. Yeah, and but that kind of travel was really playing havoc with my health, and I had actually made up my mind early 2020 that I will leave. I mean, we'll work it out in a way, but
Right.
then the pandemic struck, so the whole thing got pushed by about 6 months, and I
Oh,
had started teaching at that time. I was really enjoying it, and I thought that I would leave and sort of just chill for a while and stay home. There have been months I have seen more hotel rooms than my home. And it came to a point I was forgetting where I was. It was I don't recommend that kind of travel for anyone. Like 10 to 15 days a month, you would be out usually out of the country and all that. So, and I thought 6 months, I will not do anything. I will teach, I will write, and then I'll see. Then in comes Harsh, extremely compelling. He said, just come, we'll teach you everything. So, long story short, 2 weeks of intense conversation, 6 times with Harsh. Then I met the CXO team, I met the others, I met a couple of board members who uh, who I have also known from before, one of them at least. And then he convinced me, and I got convinced, and here I am without again knowing jack shit about gaming and fantasy sports. But so to answer long answer to your short question, I like taking risks. I like going out of comfort zones. I pick up people because I like people. All my jobs have come through references. I have great friends and mentors from every single workplace.
fantastic. Thank you so much. And Paroma, as you were speaking, there are so many comments, questions that are coming in. So, Parikshit, I hope this answers your question, which is about how to maintain connections in a meaningful way, so that you do not have to look out for a job and people headhunt you all the time. So, thank you, Paroma, for bringing that perspective.
Can I just share one personal detail?
Mhm,
My
mhm.
son, I also had my son very early at 24. So he works in London and he got married to his British college mate. So I'm a mom-in-law, and a lovely girl. And in that wedding 2 years back, I had friends from every single school and college I attended and every single workplace. That by itself is a reward for me.
Indeed, indeed. And thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, truly.
yeah. So, Paroma, quickly shifting gears, there are a whole bunch of questions, and we are definitely racing against time, but I'll try to do justice to that. If we have to look at, and you've been transitioning from, I would say, the old world of making personal connections, meeting up with people, building network, and staying connected to this new world, a virtual world of social media and building up your personal brand. So in today's day and age, social media is definitely playing a pivotal role in communicating your personal brand and seeking opportunities. What are some of the tips that you would share which can help people navigate through these social media platforms that are available today? So any quick inputs there.
I teach this, so I will try and answer it. So one of the first things I would say is that there's no substitute for a face-to-face interaction. If you
Hmm.
can do it, I know it's very difficult, but this is temporary. It will go away. There's no substitute for in-person interaction. So, but having said that, first lesson is map your message to the platform. I am a large user of both LinkedIn and Facebook. Facebook,
Hmm.
all my personal stuff goes in, and I like writing, so I write from time to time there. And but I have a lot of journalists and public policy professionals also there. So sometimes I also use it professionally, but usually for personal stuff. And you can do some brand building there also, just not be very obvious there. LinkedIn is a completely professional platform. You can absolutely use it to build your brand, to connect with people. Do it thoughtfully, because no one likes a pest, one. And secondly, be very uh, sort of mindful of who you are reaching out to and for what purpose. Um,
Hmm.
and if you are a user of, if you are, say, an artist or an architect or a fashion designer or any of those professions, fashion merchandising, Instagram can be a very useful tool for your business as well as personal needs. I would say if you're not very conversant with social media, stay away from Twitter, because that's really real time. And unless and until you're a journalist or obviously a politician who need it all the time, I think it's debatable, but I think it's good to be an observer there to begin with, unless and
True.
until you have a hang of it. And for CEOs, and many people ask me also, professional people, I said, if you have someone managing Twitter actively for you, opt for it. Or if you are an active manager of your handle. Otherwise, Twitter can be a really dangerous thing.
Okay.
So be a bit careful about how you use it. So mapping the message to the platform, which is very important. The second is being truthful and authentic. Please don't try and be what you are not. People are much more connected than you think they are. And it's very easy to find out about gaps in resumes or things. In one of my jobs, we had to withdraw an offer from a CEO level candidate because he lied on my resume, on his resume. Such things also happen. Every company does background checks before hiring. So be truthful and be authentic, and you don't have to be like anybody else. You are you, and you have your strengths. It's best to talk about them and play to them rather than trying to make up for gaps. And if you've had a gap in resume, just be upfront about it. I'm hiring a lot of people. I'm talking to a lot of people because we are building the team pretty much from scratch. A lot of the journalists and media professionals have been laid off. That's fine. I mean, their performance has very little to do with it. It's just the state of the world.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so be upfront and be authentic. And the third and last thing I would say is that be very mindful of, conversations about religion, gender, caste, politics. People have their beliefs. Respect somebody else's belief. Everybody doesn't have to think like you.
Right.
Very
True.
strident political or religious beliefs and airing of them is usually a red flag for recruiters. Stay away from it.
Fantastic. And thank you for being so crisp around the three tenets. I would say these are the three tenets for aspiring professionals to handle social media today. So thank you so much for giving that perspective. Um, I'm just going to shift a little bit back and bring the spotlight on you by understanding the role of mentors in your life. See, we all know that mentors help us move from one pillar to the other, and they are kind of our pillars of strength. Could you look back and at some of your key challenging moments and that you experienced in your career, maybe, and
Oh,
talk
yes.
about how, as an ecosystem of mentors, how did that help you tide over those circumstances or situations? And if you could share probably a short anecdote out there. That will be really helpful
Oh,
for our audience.
I have no hesitancy in naming them because they all know. I'm quite sure. I mean, somebody like a Pravat Sinha, who was the
Hmm.
founder dean of ISB and the founder trustee of Ashoka. And now Pramath was my boss in ISB. I mean, I always say he made a civilized being out of me. I was such a savage. So, I mean, he's one of the most empathetic human beings, and really, he really understands people and knows how to get the best out of them. So he's still remains one of my sounding boards whenever I am faced with a dilemma. Um, well, another unlikely but a very good mentor has been Ashok Tyagi, who is now the CFO of DLF and who was a very senior functionary in GE. Ashok
Mhm.
is part of the GE group, and I still, again, go to him for quick checks. He's one of the most pragmatic, authentic people I know. So, Ashok. Then definitely in Google, so many. Rajan. He's absolutely delightful and always willing to make time for somebody he cares about and somebody's growth he cares about. I mean, many times I've gone to Rajan and he said, "Don't be stupid. Think like an intelligent person. You are intelligent. You can do this." So, and he's very good if you match him from step for step. I mean, he doesn't have any room for laggards, but without that, he's just fantastic. I can go to him anytime, even now, and he can come to me if he needs anything, which he does. Nikesh, I learned how to push the envelope. Nikesh is, I mean, he can reduce grown men to tears. And we've had like many bust ups throughout the year. I mean, throughout these like decades. And I've told him that, like, if you speak to me like this, I won't be able to walk for you. So, but, I mean, relentless pursuit of excellence. Why this is not going to be happening like this? 20% more, 30% more. Learn from Nikesh. Rachel Whetstone, who's now the chief communications officer in Netflix and who was my
Right.
global boss in Google, one of the bravest people I know, one of the bravest and most authentic people I know. Jessica Powell, who walked away from the top job in Google to become an author. I'm in touch with all these people. So, I'm very fortunate. I have a great bunch of mentors who I can go to who make time for me. And I hope I am a mentor to some people. I'm in touch with every single team of mine. They come to me, some of them still for personal stuff. Things like, whether they should get a divorce, have a baby, move abroad. All these things have happened. But the thing is that I like people. I think I learn from people all the time. And I hopefully people learn from me. So again, be authentic, reach out. If you need help, reach out. Nobody says no unless and until you're being a pest. No one says no. I mean, just reach out, ask for help, and be authentic in return. If someone turns to you for help, give it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I guess your affinity with people stands out, and your empathy towards understanding each other's need and standing up for them, not only when you need them but also when they need you, is really amazing to hear. Thank you, Yashwani Mehra, for the wonderful comment. And she mentions, love the moves made by Paroma and the role of relationships that have shaped our career. So thank you, Paroma. uh, One question that probably I'm picking up as a cue from your last statement is in the context of women, and this question has also come from two different ladies in the group. One of them is Megha, and the other one is Priya. So the question is, a lot of times women tend to, or there's a common notion, I would say, that women don't feel comfortable reaching out proactively with an intent of creating a network, and it's transactional or it's not organic. What would you say to such people? And an extension to that is especially addressing Priya's aspect. How do we overcome the fear of connecting with entrepreneurs and sharing our ideas with them, essentially? So
So the thing is
interlinked
that,
two questions. Yeah.
first of all, don't be fearful. I mean, there is a huge power in in idea, power of idea. So everybody's open to hearing a good idea and giving support. Having said that, the world of investing is almost fully, entirely testosterone driven. It's a very masculine space. I worked there for 6 years. You really have to fight sometimes to hold your own.
Hmm.
And the best way you can hold your own is to through building professional credibility and bringing that to the table and not being emotional about this. I mean, I am not a believer in this main dukhiari trip. I've never been. Okay, so you are your best ambassador. So reach out. Like yesterday, a friend reached out to me, somebody who I don't know very well, and but I know her, and she's a single mom, and she's trying to do this business. She said, "Can you help me write a pitch document?" I don't have time, but I'm going to reach out to someone in my network to see, can you provide me with a sample pitch document, which I'll send her and she can write. So you can help, you can make many connections like this. And when you bring your network and your credibility to the table, people do take you seriously. Something that I hear quite a lot from women is that I don't have a seat at the table. My answer to that question is that earn your seat at the table, man or
True.
woman. That's the best way to do it is through performance, one. Then developing a professional corporate image. And third is the right kind of exposure. The three tricks to building a brand is performance, image, and exposure. So this is also something I teach. And I do some of the mentoring workshops and when I teach women how to build a personal brand. So, but being authentic, falsehoods have no place here. And, whatever gap there is, or whatever, if you have an inadequacy, talk about it. And also, I would say that networks are really important. So reach out to people. It doesn't have to be over golf and drinks. Nobody does that
Mhm.
anymore. Nobody has the time. And last 2 years, just see, none of that is possible anyway. So seek out, go out, I mean, for a coffee with a colleague, attend industry events sometimes, go to good conferences to learn, be part of networks, virtual networks. Don't, though, keep building your brand at the cost of an organization that can backfire. Do it with your performance intact. Nobody can object to that.
True.
And another thing is that if you have one or two causes you believe in, like I do seriously believe in free expression. I worked with Jaipur Lit Fest for years, and I believe in diversity and inclusion. Very passionate believer. So those things are also very good sometimes to build networks, but you have to be authentic. You can't say that I will do green energy because it will help me to build a network. It doesn't work like that. Put the passion first, the network will come.
Fantastic. That's something which is very, very meaningful. Putting your passion first, and the networks will follow.
Yeah.
Because that's, I think, and that can truly happen when you are at your authentic self. That's how I see the linkage between being authentic and then having a very, very progressive life in general. It's not restricted to your professional being, but also living yourself as a whole, as a person, in personal as well as professional areas. In this case, Paroma, twist in the question: do you believe women can have it all? And if yes, because you've been so passionate about diversity and inclusion, what is it according to you?
First of all, I question that all. What is all?
Okay.
All is different from different people. If
Yes.
you are
True.
thinking that, I mean, I will subscribe to this archetype of superwoman, don't. That's an advertising stereotype. Yeah, this is like insidious ways of getting to buy you products and other services, etc. Don't subscribe to it. I mean, you cannot be a superwoman. Don't even try. I think the best thing you can do is to have try and have a balance. If sometimes work will take precedence, sometimes home will take precedence. If I mean, this classic thing, do I go to a parent teachers meeting, or do I attend a meeting with my boss or my CEO? Parent teachers meeting 100 times. Those are not going to come back.
Those are not good.
Oh, yeah. So please prioritize and be authentic about your prioritization. No, and it's much better than what we started with 20 years back. And even before that, I was in the media, and that was one of the most sexist industries you can think of. I have a really, I mean, I had a very wicked boss who told me, I can give you a car, but I won't give you a car. I'll give you some money because you have a husband who works for a multinational. This is plain damn hypocrisy. So inequality is going to be there, whether you like it or not. But the best way of tackling that and having a balance for yourself is to prioritize and ruthlessly stick to that prioritization, no matter what. In this, I think good relationships again will help. If you can reach out to your family, reach out to your close friends sometimes for help, please do that, because uh, it's very fortunate to have family at hand to take care of some emergencies or crisis. I said my between my mother, my mother-in-law, and my husband, mostly my husband, looked after my son when I was away. And the second thing is that this is sounds basic, but it is not. Invest in really good infrastructure. Invest in the best kind of help. I have always paid my house help above market rates because I need them. I need them more than they need me because they can get a job anytime. I may not be able to, and I can only do my job well if I know my home is taken care of totally. So please, please invest and get the best kind of infrastructure, domestic infrastructure you have. Nobody talks about it, but this is very important. If you are someone who has a family, if you are single, if you are building a career completely focused on that, it's absolutely fine. Married, children, none of these things are preconditions for happiness at all. I know this is a bit revolutionary to say that, but I sincerely believe in it. If you choose to have a family, have one, by all means. If you don't choose to, that's perfectly fine. Just think that then also you need a work life balance. Then you probably have a hobby or have a cause that you champion, an interest that you pursue. Vinita Bali, who used to be the Britannia CEO, is one of the best trained Kathak dancers. Very few people know about it. And she gave it up finally, but then she kept it for a long time because she was single, she could do that. So, whatever resonates with you, try and get a balance. And that's what I think being whole is about. So, you can have it all, depending on what your all is, and ruthlessly prioritize and get good infrastructure and networks.
Fantastic. I'm sure you must be touching many chords while sharing these perspectives, because a lot of times we do face these dilemmas. All of us have, even as a working professional, I have faced this dilemma in my life. And thank you for being so upfront, so open about making life a priority as and when it is required. And the other topic is a little touchy, but yes, the support system. I know
Yeah,
how difficult it can be if you don't have a robust support system.
exactly.
And in my house, at a personal level, I'm sharing that I have taken that ownership of making sure that the support system is up and running in the house at all times. So yes, taking that shared ownership and
It's
successfully,
fantastic. Yeah, I
yeah,
was on a panel, and there were people asking that I am having my lunch at 10 o'clock at night because I'm not being able to say no to work, and because of COVID, there's no domestic help. And it's such a sad situation. If partners or the rest of the members of the family don't step up, or the
Yeah,
organization does not provide the right resources. And
absolutely.
somebody cited an example of a manager. I said, once this is over, go and look for a new job. I mean, nothing is worth. Uh, that's probably the last thing I'll say in work-life balance. Nothing is worth your long-term peace of mind or your physical health. If
True.
either of the situations is compromising one or the other or both, as it in most cases, not worth being there. Like at work, two things: ethical transgression and sexual harassment. Just leave if there's no regret, no recourse. Uh, you cannot compromise with these things. No job title, no brand will compromise with these things. Never.
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that, because that Shreya is from one of our audiences had a very interesting question. So maybe if there are any elements that are left out, I'd request Paroma to share those. Is it possible to have happy relationships all the time?
No, absolutely not. But at the same time, just this is also learned from one of my mentors. Two things. One is that whenever you're in a dilemma, step back, look at the big picture. We are often very mired in our day to day stuff. Just step back and see what this situation is and where you are and what is the context. If you can, usually it writes your perspective. You had a bad day today, tomorrow is another day. And you can always mend fences, build bridges. So step back. Don't overreact, step back. One. Second is, this is my favorite. Career is a marathon, boss. It's not a sprint. You're going to fall. You're going to have bends in the road. You're going to have bumps. Bad appraisals guaranteed. Bad bosses guaranteed. Being passed over guaranteed. If you're going to work for 30 years, all these things are going to happen. What would you do? Pick up, dust off, and move on. Resilience is the best gift you can give yourself. And this I speak from experience. I've been working for now about 27 years, yeah, 27, 28. I mean, has it gone well all the time? Absolutely not. Have I been miserable? Yes, of course. Have I had to take tough decisions? Obviously. But if the overall mix works for you, consider yourself very fortunate and move ahead. Don't look back. You can't undo the past. Just move ahead,
Fantastic.
look forward.
Paroma, I must confess, the smile on your face, even when you're recounting or rethinking about your adverse moments, and the way you've expressed that expression of just dust off and move on, is something for us to really, really learn and gather. And I'm also conscious of the time, and we are almost at the hour. So, any parting thoughts before I quickly summarize our conversation today? Any parting thoughts from your side, Param?
I just think live life and enjoy it. And don't compromise your sense of self. Sense of self is again the biggest gift you can give yourself.
True.
Invest in yourself, invest in yourself, whether in terms of knowledge, relationships, networks, experiences. Enrich yourself, and you are your best asset, and you are your best gift. So remember that all the time. Life is precious. Why wallow in misery? We always do that. Just cut loose, and I mean, this is what cut loose. Cut loose, move forward. This is what I truly believe in. All this, reminiscing, recounting, what has gone wrong, nothing is going happening in future. This is all balderdash. Why can't we think of it like that? There is a vaccine. Hopefully, will the end is in sight. Another 3 months, maybe. So yeah, I mean, move on, move forward.
Fantastic. Fantastic, and thank you for sharing that, Paroma. So I guess I do have a long list, but I will pick up some of the very important pieces that I gathered from our conversation today. And I'm really grateful to Vitesh for hosting us, for giving me the opportunity to host you and get to learn from your experiences. So, quickly summarizing, take the right risks. That's something which I'm definitely looking up, and that's on my list. Going out of your comfort zone, picking people over anything else, being truthful and authentic. And I think that came out in many multiple dimensions that we touched upon today.
Yeah, I'm candid to a fault. Everyone knows who
Yeah,
has this.
and ruthlessly prioritizing, and then looking at your overall well-being, choosing to walk away when it affects your peace of mind. And life and professional as well as personal is a marathon. It's not a sprint. There will be situations, there will be circumstances. Dust off and move on, cut loose and let go. So these are some of the things that I am carrying away. And there are some comments from the audiences. Shreya Thakur mentions, and this is different from you, what you usually hear. Shreya Thakur mentions, you have a very cute smile, ma'am. And there are multiple smileys that are coming in. Sanjana Mehrotra is thanking you for bringing in your perspective. If there are any questions that have been left out, I would request the audiences to just post it here in case we get hold of Paroma, because I know she's very busy. But yes, if
No,
there
no,
are any questions,
I always love to take questions, Dinkar. I
sure.
wish we could actually. So
Yeah. So thank you so much, Paroma, for your time, and look forward to engaging with you in the future. And all the best for the IPL season, I must say.
thank you so much. And I want to tell the audience thank you for being here and sparing the time to hear us. I know everybody has many things to do. So thanks for the prioritization. If any of you really has a burning question, connect with me over LinkedIn. I'm very widely available and always willing to engage if there's, I mean, a genuine reason and you need help. Please feel free to reach out. That is all. And Dinka, thank you. I've never been interviewed by a happiness coach, and this is the first time. And I really enjoyed it. Thanks a
Thank you.
lot, and we should stay in touch.
Sure. Look forward to that.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
nice
much.
evening. Thank you. Bye bye.